They said it couldn't be done. The media laughed. The legal experts sneered. The judges practically popped champagne. But the Supreme Court dropped a hammer, obliterating the left's favorite weapon, the nationwide injunction. And suddenly, Trump's agenda isn't in court. It's in motion. First target, birthright citizenship. Here's what they don't want you to know. The 14th Amendment wasn't written for birth tourists or border jumpers. It was written in 1868 for the children of freed slaves, not the children of cartel coyotes. Now that Trump's hands are untied, the scam is over. No more legal gymnastics, no more open border loopholes. It's not controversial anymore. Now it's constitutional. And if you're one of those who thought this couldn't happen, well, buckle up, because we've got a really great segment coming up. With Trump's Made in America agenda eyeing import tariffs, the race for secure domestic supply is just hit overdrive. Copper is charging back towards last year's record, hovering around $4.85 a pound as global stockpiles scrape 15-year lows. Enter Giant Mining Corp, ticker BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Their 9,800-acre Majuba Hill project sits in mining-friendly Nevada, right beside highway, rail, power, gas, and fiber. Recent drilling delivered a 170-foot copper zone averaging 0.4%, capped by a 10-foot streak running 4.4% copper. That's crazy. That's the kind of punch that majors will pay billions for. Engineering firm RESPEC is already fast-tracking the first NI 43-101 resource, so Majuba could leap from a drill rig to development while rivals are still getting their knickers on. In a super cycle where projects that move fast win, Giant Mining checks every box. Discover more at giantminingcorp.com, on the OTC at BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Now let's watch Senator Kennedy expose the entire judicial scam for what it really is: pure illegal lawfare. The Louisiana firebrand doesn't mince words about how federal judges literally invented their own power to stop presidents that they don't like. Listen to him demolish their fake authority with brutal honesty. Take a look.
It certainly appears in many instances that this is continuing to be lawfare against the current president, and it's not supposed to be that way. I mean, the scales of justice are not supposed to tip politically one way or the other. Why do you think we're seeing what we're seeing against Trump?
Well, both sides have abused it. And by it, I mean universal injunctions. The Democrats more than the Republicans, but both sides have abused it. And it's illegal. There's no basis for it in law. And I've just been waiting for the Supreme Court to do this. I mean, anybody who knows a law book from an LL Bean catalog knows that federal judges just made up this concept of universal injunctions. There's no basis in statute, no basis in Supreme Court precedent. There's no basis in English common law. They just made it up because they don't agree with what a president or Congress has done. You know, if they disagree, I'm sorry. Fill out a hurt feelings report, buy a comfort rock. But they can't just say, I disagree and I'm putting the entire action by another branch of government on hold because I don't like it. And that's what they've been doing. And they're not the superior branch of government. They're an equal branch of
nationwide injunctions, where a single federal judge can block a presidential executive order across all 50 states. They're constitutionally dubious. These sweeping rulings extend relief beyond the plaintiffs in a case, violating Article 3's limits on judicial power to cases and controversies. Critics argue they undermine the separation of powers by allowing one district judge to halt national policy, bypassing the executive branch and other courts. They also encourage forum shopping, where plaintiffs seek friendly venues to shut down federal actions. We've seen that a lot. Justice Clarence Thomas issued a stark warning in Trump versus Hawaii in 2018, stating, "These universal injunctions are legally and historically dubious. If their popularity continues, the court must address their legality." His message is clear. These injunctions distort the judicial role and dangerously centralize power. Until the Supreme Court settles this issue, expect more legal chaos and growing scrutiny of unelected judges making nationwide decisions from a single bench, thereby negating the mandate from America, thereby negating the Trump mandate. Listen to this. They tried everything. They shopped for judges. They filed in the most liberal, leftist, communist, socialist districts, and they thought they had Trump cornered. But watch what just happened when the Supreme Court delivered a knockout blow to this strange judicial tyranny, which only seems to apply when it's applied towards Republicans. This changes the entire game. Take a look.
I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people.
Let's face it, these are communist, socialist, activist judges who are trying to undermine the mandate that we, the American people, have elected to happen. Okay, this is a constitutional crisis. You know, the Supreme Court just gave a monumental victory for the Constitution. No more judicial dictatorships. You know, they accused Trump of being a dictator. Trump was elected, duly elected. He is our duly elected president, and what he is doing, that's what we elected him to do. But Trump has been unleashed by the Supreme Court. Now think about what Trump just revealed. More nationwide injunctions against him than the entire 20th century combined. You know, Shakespeare said it best. Doth protest too much, methinks. Okay? They are so up against him. They want so badly for him to be shut down. There's got to be something to it. Liberal judges turn themselves into these mini dictators, blocking the will of 75 million Americans with the stroke of a pen. That's simply not right. And even CNN is admitting that Trump is winning. Paula Reed gives the truth about Trump through some serious resting bitch face. Take a look.
Here's what we know. This is a big win for President Trump because he has been railing against the so-called nationwide injunctions. This is the power of a single judge to block an executive order for the entire country. And this case came up as a result of multiple challenges to his effort to limit birthright citizenship through an executive order. Now, here it appears that the justices are agreeing with Trump and limiting this power that judges have to block a policy for the entire country.
She can't stand it. She's so mad. She's so utterly mad right now. You mad, bro? One radical judge in San Francisco could freeze immigration enforcement for the whole country. I mean, to me, that's entirely wild. I don't. To me, that doesn't sound legal. One activist in Maryland could stop border security nationwide. That insanity just ended. But here's where it gets explosive. Watch Trump reveal exactly what this ruling means for most controversial promise: ending birthright citizenship. The establishment said it couldn't be done. The legal experts called it impossible. But listen to what Trump has to say about it.
Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
It was meant for the babies of slaves. And I mean, to be honest, you would think BLM would be screaming from the rooftops in support for Trump. But there's your 30,000-pound truth bomb from our president. Trump just shattered decades of legal precedent with one simple historical fact. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868, the exact end date of the Civil War. It was specifically designed to grant citizenship to freed slaves and their children, not birth tourists, not illegal border crossers, not Tren de Aragua or MS-13 or anything like that. No anchor babies. The original intent was crystal clear, and now Trump can finally argue it in court without some district judge shutting it down before the case even begins. Attorney General Pam Bondi drops another bombshell about how rigged the system was against Trump. These numbers are going to infuriate you.
Reiterate, of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as president of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy. These 5 districts.
35 out of 40 injunctions from 5 liberal strongholds. That's not justice. That is judicial warfare. Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, and Washington. The bluest places on planet Earth. 5 radical jurisdictions holding the entire nation hostage. They turned judge shopping into an art form, knowing exactly which courtrooms would rubber stamp this ridiculous resistance. But that game is over. The Supreme Court said so. No more forum shopping, no more judicial ambushes. If liberals want to stop Trump's policies now, they're going to have to win with merits, not just to find a friendly judge who can't stand Trump, who has Trump derangement syndrome, who will stop at nothing, even risk their own professional career and their legacy. This is what judges do. Their legacy. They're risking their legacy just to get at Trump. And President Trump explains why this ruling is also simply about basic common sense. Watch him break down how insane the old system really was.
This is really also a decision based on common sense. It didn't work the other way. It was a disaster where somebody from a certain location in a very liberal state or a liberal judge or a liberal group of judges could tie up a whole country for years because their decision would sometimes take years to overturn. We've overturned many of the decisions, but it would take years to do it. And we have to act quickly when it comes to illegal immigration. We have murderers, killers, we have drug dealers, we have what they've allowed to come into our country should never be forgotten. It should never be forgotten what they've done to our country. And we have to be able to act very quickly, and we're going to do that. Thank you.
What's the point of being president if some putz in some extremely blue district can just derail your entire agenda? Do we even have a president at that point? I mean, we have murderers, killers, drug dealers, rapists. And one liberal judge could protect them all. One liberal judge could literally walk them out the back door. Not anymore. This is what the left fears the most. With nationwide injunctions dead, Trump can now move at lightning speed. Sanctuary cities defunded. No judge can stop it. Refugee resettlement suspended. No judge can stop it. Federal funding for transgender surgeries eliminated. No judge can stop it. Every single America First policy that voters demanded is now on the fast track. The implications are staggering. Remember, every previous attempt to end birthright citizenship died in the courts before it could even be properly argued. Liberal judges would issue nationwide injunctions, these fraudulent injunctions, based on their feelings, not the law. Now that shield is gone. The constitutional argument about the 14th Amendment, the true meaning of the 14th Amendment, will finally get a fair hearing. We're not talking about Happy Meals for illegal immigrants anymore. We're talking about the actual meaning of the Constitution, the letter of the Constitution. And when it does, hundreds of thousands of anchor babies per year will no longer get automatic citizenship. You don't just get to get pregnant and then crap out a baby on American soil. That's not happening anymore. This isn't just a legal victory. It's the restoration of presidential power. The executive branch can finally execute the law without judicial sabotage, because that's what it is. It's sabotage. The separation of powers actually means something again. One president, not 700 federal judges with dubious qualifications. They're not setting immigration policy anymore. And that's how the founders intended it. Like I said, what's the point of being president if some nincompoop can just derail your agenda? If you got value from this report, please tap subscribe, send us your super chats. My final thought is next. This wasn't just a court ruling. It was a sledgehammer to the foundation of judicial tyranny, because let's face it, that's what it is. For years, liberal judges twisted the 14th Amendment into a golden ticket for anyone who just showed up. But that's not what it was written for. The original purpose, to grant citizenship to the children of slaves after the Civil War. That's it. Period. Full stop. Not pregnant tourists trying to game the system. You don't just get to show up, crap out a baby, and then the whole entire family and all the extended family are now citizens. Because you can't separate families, right? Not cartel-sponsored anchor babies. That's not a thing anymore. Just imagine the insult comparing freed slaves generational suffering to someone timing a vacation around their due date. Think about that for a minute. Imagine how insulting that is to the people who actually had to suffer through slavery. It's obscene. And Trump just literally said, not anymore. We don't do that anymore. He now has the legal green light to finally finish the job that you elected him to do. Sanctuary cities, they're going to be defunded. Border surges, they're going to be blocked. Citizenship scams, they're going to be canceled. This is the biggest restoration of presidential power in modern history, and it's beautiful. It's delicious. And it's all thanks to President Trump. So here's the question. Should the children of illegal immigrants be born after this ruling be deported with their parents? Yes or no? This is an interesting question. Nobody wants to see anybody suffer, but we all know the right thing to do. Drop your answer below and wear your outrage proudly at the merch shop. The link is in the description.